Hello whisky fans, I've got my calibrated bottle of water out on the table here, so that can only mean one thing. This is a cask strength whisky review. And it's a Bunnahabhain. Everyone's favourite, eagerly awaited. Bunnahabhain 12 along with the Ardbeg 10 is one of the best widely available and affordable standard bottlings of single malt Scotch whisky that you can get from Islay or anywhere at all. So people are understandably excited about this. This is Bunnahabhain 12-year-old cask strength. So this Bunnahabhain cask strength is a brand new release. It's just come out. It is 55.1% ABV, and it's at the moment it's a Coterie exclusive release. Although that's not really saying that much, because the Bunnahabhain Coterie is basically Bunnahabhain's free mailing list. So you don't really need to do anything other than give them your probably like name and email address to have access to this. And obviously, as soon as it goes on sale, you need to be there, because these things do have a habit of selling out pretty quickly. If you are not a Coterie member, or if you missed out on this one, don't worry, because I'm told that there's going to be more of this coming. This is going to be a fairly widely available thing. And also, it says on here that this is the 2021 edition, so hopefully we're going to get some of this every year. As for the label and the details on the label and the bottle, presentation's pretty nice. Showed you that already. The label is slightly hard to read in places, but that's really my only gripe, and it's a very, very minor one. I think that unless you're in good light, this sort of gold on sort of, what colour is that? Mauve, puce, I don't know, dark red, but all the details are here. Natural colour, non-chill filtered, product of Scotland, 12 years old, 55.1% ABV, small batch distilled. So there's just absolutely no guesswork required there at all. There's no digging around online to try and find a statement that someone made that may or may not apply to the bottle that you got at whenever you bought it. There's no wondering what things mean. They've just told us. It seems bizarre that all the information is there and it's a full craft presentation. So really, Lefroy could learn a lot here. Also can't complain too much, because if you look at the Bunnahabhain logo there, man with the hat and the beard at the ship's wheel, modelled on yours truly. So can't be too harsh with them, can I? So let's get some in the glass, see what we've got. So again, oh, lovely. As with, I'm going to be careful not to stand it on the table, because at 55%, if I get a single drop of that on the table, there will be no varnish left. Excellent paint stripper at 55%. Not that you'd want to waste that by doing that with it. But as per the Highland Park 15-year-old Viking Heart, which also says that it's cask-driven natural colour, or whatever phrase Highland Park used, we know that this is natural colour. So, an excellent reference for all of us in the whisky world. This is what a whisky which is 12 years old from, a lot of this is going to be from sherry casks, being Bunnahabhain, but at 55%, 12-year-old, that is what natural colour looks like. Nice to know. I am going to add some water into this one. And I'm probably going to stop the video now so I can do this precisely. I think that this is a good whisky to drink it around, and here is a problem that I'm going to go into later, around about 46-48%. So I've added some water to that in my scientific method, and I don't know if you can see, the camera's refusing to focus as it usually does. But you can see that there's some oil swirling around in there. Beautiful. Lovely, non-chill filtered, natural presentation. Thank you, Bunnahabhain. So, on the nose. don't know if it's a coincidence that they've released this whiskey in sort of mid-November, but I always think it's a very Christmassy malt. Getting a strong aroma of things like minced pie, sugary dried fruits and spices like baking spices, like a kitchen at Christmas time. There is definitely a touch of oakiness there, a touch of dry oak, a little bit of cocoa powder, lovely note of really sweet sugary prunes, honey and caramel, lovely malty, not too old. It's not the sort of well-aged, old, oily maltiness that we had on the Highland Park 15-year-old, which was quite, even though it was underpowered, it was really a showcase of well-aged malt. This is still only 12 years old, and you've got that maltiness there. But it's a young, fresh, playful maltiness. Let's see how it tastes. So the wonderful thing about this whiskey is that the mouthfeel is fantastic. Because this is a non-chill filtered, full ABV, full flavoured, lovely oily single malt, you've really got that presence on the tongue that you just don't get with whiskey that's even 44%, but especially 43 and 40%. You just don't get that. It's just removed, it's stripped away. It's such a waste. But with this whiskey, it's all in there. Nothing's been taken out. Fantastic dram. On the palates, in line with the nose, I'm getting lots of honey and caramel, chocolate raisins in particular from those sherry casks. Again, lots of maltiness, not old malt, just young, youthful, playful maltiness. Notes of Christmas cake, obviously Christmas cake with sherry. It's actually a beautiful balance in this one, even though Bunnahabhain is generally a heavily sherried style. There's an excellent balance of sweetness from the sherry and those spicy, more challenging notes from the sherry and sweetness from those bourbon casks. Again, there is a little bit of a dry oak note, the same as what I found on the nose with this one. And that dry oak note, I'm not sure that was quite so present in the standard 46.3% standard edition of the 12-year-old. I'm not sure if that was there. It's not something that I've noticed to this extent before. Also getting some cocoa powder and a lovely maritime saltiness, especially on the late palate of this. It's going to have another sip. I don't know if you can see there because of the camera being awkward, but you're still getting, even though that's been in there with the water for quite a while, I can still see lots of those trails of oiliness, all those protein chains swirling around. Really is an excellent presentation. It's such a shame that we can't have this level of craft presentation from all whiskey. On the finish of this one, excellent maltiness, more of that pleasant dry salty oak and a really strong raisin, like sweet sugary raisins and prunes. I think that this is another fantastic offering from Bunnahabhain Distillery, and in summary I think this is basically the same as the 12-year-old but slightly stronger, and that's why, as for a grade on this one, I'm not going to get carried away. I'm going to give it the exact same B+ that I gave to the standard 12-year-old from Bunnahabhain. So, this 12-year-old cask strength release from Bunnahabhain, should you buy it? Well, maybe. Is it a good whiskey? Yep, absolutely, it's a fantastic whiskey. Do you need to buy this whiskey? Is it something you need to own? Maybe not. And that sounds a little bit of an odd statement, but I think because the standard 46.3% Bunnahabhain 12-year-old is such a fantastic whiskey already, it makes it a little bit more complicated as to whether I would recommend this whiskey. An obvious comparison to make with this one is the Laphroaig 10-year-old cask strength release, because they're both Islay whiskies, obviously very different in style, and they're both around the same age, but with the Laphroaig, we're kind of forced into buying the annual cask strength version because the standard expression is 40% piss. It's just so underpowered, so weak. For people that are accustomed to craft presentations and really come to demand that standard of a whisky, the 10-year-old from Laphroaig is just so disappointing. But when you consider that the Bunnahabhain wasn't always, it used to be a 40% chill filtered and coloured whisky. It hasn't always been a craft presentation, but when you consider that what you can get now for well under £40 is 46.3%, I think that 46.3% is just a great drinking strength for that style. Now, obviously I have tried this new release from Bunnahabhain, the 55.1% cask strength at cask strength, because I'd be crazy not to, having bought it. And I think that it's drinkable at full cask strength. It's actually not that much higher when you think about it. It's only an extra, around about 9% extra on the ABV, so it's not an entire world apart like the Laphroaig 10-year-old at 40% and, say, last year's release at 60%. It's not entirely worlds apart. But I think that drinking this at cask strength, you get a fairly strong oak spice note, and I think that drinking this at 46 to 48% really brings the sweetness out quite a lot. I think it really helps. Another thing that I noticed about this Bunnahabhain 12yo Cask strength is bottle shock. So bottle shock is something that originally was a phenomenon described in the wine industry, and it's when, if you get a product that's been bottled recently, sometimes it takes a little while or a little bit of air to fully open up and kind of fully develop the flavours that you should be getting. And that's definitely something that I experienced with this whisky. When I got it, especially drinking it at cask strength, it was that little bit closed, a little bit harsh. And what I actually did, I actually took the cork out, had a few drams to get the level down sort of into the wide bit of the bottle so you've got some evaporation going, and I just left the bottle with no cork on the coffee table for sort of a day and a half just to let it breathe, and I felt that that really helped open it up a little bit. But back to the point in hand, do I recommend this whisky? I think you're essentially paying more money just to get a slightly higher ABV. The difference in quality, what you get in return, is so much more of a narrower margin than what you get by buying the cask strength version of other whiskies. And you are paying quite a lot more, because this is nearly twice the price of the standard 46% version. So paying nearly twice the price for an extra 9%, or purely for the flexibility of adjusting the ABV wherever you want it, in my opinion is quite a lot. But I really feel like maybe £60-65 would have probably been a fairer price for this cask strength release. So in summary, if you haven't got any Bunnahabhain right now and you like your cask strength whiskies, and maybe if cost isn't that important to you, then fantastic, go for it, go and buy it right now if you can. But, and especially if you've already got some bottles of the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old on your shelf, I think the smart buy probably is still the standard 12-year-old. But really, whichever one you go for, you can't go wrong, because like almost everything from Bunnahabhain, it is exceptionally good whisky. So thank you all for watching, and I hope anyone out there that does want to try or buy a bottle of this one is able to. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.